You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. The populist leader, Geert Wilders, his Freedom Party, it's won the Netherlands elections in a victory that is set, it's caused some shockwaves across Europe. The Freedom Party actually hasn't really won the elections because it just won 37 seats, and it's ahead of its nearest rival, which is a left-wing alliance. However, in order to become the Prime Minister and form a government, Wilders will have to convince other parties to form a coalition, as he needs 76 seats for a majority in the 150-member parliament.
In the 150-member parliament of Netherlands, popular leader Geert Wilders' Freedom Party emerged as big winner in the election. In a victory speech, Wilders promised to bring an end to a tsunami of asylum and immigration.
We will make sure that the Netherlands will be for the Dutch people again. We will restrict the asylum tsunami and migration. People will have more money in their wallet again.
The result is an enormous surprise for many.
It's an earthquake. You can call it an earthquake. Nobody expected this result. PVV, which more or less is the radical populist outlier in Dutch politics, becoming the biggest party, Prime Minister's party, perhaps even, that was really not expected by anyone. Not even by Geert Wilders, the potential Prime Minister himself.
Beating all predictions, his Freedom Party won 37 seats out of 150, well ahead of 25 for a joint ticket and 24 for the Conservative People's Party for Freedom and Democracy of outgoing Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Ja hoor, in het prullenbak.
Yes. And to provide us with some context and background to this story, we have with us Professor Ummu Salma Bava from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us. So it's not quite a majority, not even a sweeping majority. But since Wilders has got to form a coalition government, do you see him compromising on some of his hardline positions he's taken? You know, I mean, one is against immigration, one is against about leaving the EU, and he targets certain communities as well.
So good evening and thank you so much. Clearly, like you said, the results are in, but you know, it's a clear indication that it is, you know, one could read it as enough of the old and let's start with something new. But having said that, I think it's also now the most important task. While he may have convinced a certain amount of voters and secured that 37 seats, is far short of that 76 seat you know, golden number to be sworn in to form the government. And I think this is where the very important exercise will begin. One can just look back to the last elections in 21, where it took almost 300 days to form the government. So building the coalition is going to be extremely critical, and who comes on board in terms of the center-right parties, you know, will become very crucial. Yes. Second point is, like, as you pointed out, Mark, like, you know, there is a certain platform which was put out for the elections. And now when the task of forming the government will come, there will be a certain amount of stepping down which will happen. And I think between the officially stated position at the time of the elections and between the forming of the government, we will see, you know, a lot of shifts take place in that coalition talks to forming the government. So those three important issues, you know, which you also flagged, anti-EU, anti-immigration, and, you know, those will come back into focus. But because not all the other parties are anti-EU, what does that mean for him is going to be important.
So he's also talking about withdrawing military support for Ukraine. He wants to slash spending on climate change as well. He's also, you know, he wants to scrap the protected rights of religious freedoms, which are constitutionally protected. He doesn't have the mandate to do this, but, you know, I mean, since he's come to power, and this has been, I mean, he's a far-right leader, he has to at least deliver on something.
Right. So he has a, you're very right to say he has part of a mandate.
Yeah.
He has a part of a mandate in terms of those seats he has, you know, won. But building a government would mean a collective mandate. You know, when you're going to get 3 other parties or 4 other parties to get to that magic number of 76, then that mandate will start transforming. It cannot be all or nothing if you have to form a government. So I think we will not see a dramatic, radical, because this is where the negotiations will become important. Let's take the anti-EU, slashing EU budgets and all. This would have an impact, but I mean, obviously, he's not going to be setting Netherlands on the course of what happened in Britain, because he's also talked about a referendum against the European Union.
Yes.
And so, I mean, are we going to start looking at a next, we could call it an exit. We had a Brexit. Is an exit going to happen next? I think it's still early days for that, but there will be negotiations on all of this. You may see stepping down in the sense of reducing the budgetary support. Netherlands is one of the largest contributors, for example.
All right.
Climate change, again, the impact is happening, and all of these you will see a step back. Say if there was 100% agenda setting earlier, then something will come to like an 80% now, maybe another 10% in the third year or fourth year.
Right.
And that means there will be an incremental approach as I read it. And that will the picture will really become clear once the coalition talks are done and we see the kind of constituted political parties who come in to make the government.
So he says he's in favor of a referendum, and he has only 37 seats. He doesn't have even 50% of the vote. He needs 76, as we say. People say that he needs the support of Mark Rutte's Conservative People's Party for freedom and democracy. He also needs the support of the centrist New Social Contract Party, which, as you know, are pro-European. I mean, he's probably unlikely to take this course of going for a referendum because it might leave him in minority. Do you think the coalition, any coalition, is going to be stable?
I think this depends a lot on the coalition talks on the issue of stability, if I were to take your last point first. And that is where the negotiations are going to be tough. The last time, as I said, it took 299 days after the election to form the government. That is the kind of, we have to look at it in terms of timeline. The election result does not guarantee an automatic forming of the government tomorrow. That's the first thing for our viewers. And it's going to be extremely tough negotiation talks because every party will try to hold its position. The party which will have to give a lot would be, the Freedom Party, because they are the ones wanting to form the government, right? So they would be the one which will have to kind of also see how is it they're willing to compromise, to negotiate. What are going to be the sticking points? If they're going to give up, say, a referendum on the EU, will they find a compromise solution by saying, okay, we can reduce budgetary support by 10 or 20%? So where those trade-offs are going to be extremely tough negotiations. But at this point, I think it's just an open slate in a sense. Definitively, there's an anxiety which is played out in the Dutch society, and that has been picked up very well by the Freedom Party.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Bava. Thank you for your insights into the story.